The roof built with sacrifice. When people see a small house, they often see only walls, doors, and a roof. They never see the sleepless nights, the silent tears, the tired hands, and the sacrifices hidden inside those bricks. Our home was not built with money alone. It was built with my father's sweat pain and endless hard work. I still remember the days when we did not even have a proper place to live. We were a poor family struggling to survive in a crowded neighborhood. Rain leaked through the broken roof of the small rented place where we stayed. During winter nights, cold air entered through the cracks in the walls, and during summer, the heat felt unbearable. We had very little food, old clothes, and almost no comfort. But even in those difficult days, my father never allowed us to lose hope. My father worked as a daily wage laborer. Every morning before sunrise, he quietly left home, carrying his old bag and wearing worn-out shoes. Sometimes he worked at construction sites, sometimes at shops, and sometimes he carried heavy loads just to earn enough money for our meals. His hands became rough, his face darkened under the burning sun, and his body grew weaker day by day. But he never complained. I was very young at that time, but I could still understand the pain hidden behind his smile. Whenever we asked him for something, he would smile gently and say, "One day, inshallah, everything will become better." Those words became our only source of strength. Our relatives often looked down on us. Some people mocked our poverty. Some said my father would never achieve anything in life. They laughed at the fact that we lived in a tiny rented space with no proper future. Many people believed poor families could never rise above their struggles. But my father never answered them with anger. He answered them with patience and hard work. Every night after returning home exhausted and covered in dust, my father would sit silently outside the house. I once heard my mother asking him why he pushed himself so hard every day. My father looked toward the sky and replied softly, "I only want my children to sleep under a safe roof. Even if I have to sacrifice my entire life, I will do it." That sentence stayed in my heart forever. Slowly, my father started saving small amounts of money. Sometimes he skipped meals to save extra money. Sometimes he walked long distances instead of spending money on transport. My mother also supported him by stitching clothes for neighbors and managing the house with unbelievable patience. Together they fought poverty like warriors, fighting a battle they could not afford to lose. Years passed in struggle. There were days when we had nothing except hope. Sometimes my father returned home without work because no one hired him that day. Yet the next morning he still woke up early and went out searching again. He never allowed failure to stop him. Then one day, my father bought a tiny piece of land at the edge of the town. It was not large or beautiful, but to us it felt like a dream. I remember how happy he looked while standing on that empty land. His eyes were filled with tears, but those tears carried hope instead of sadness. He placed his hand on the ground and said, "One day my children will live here with dignity." But buying land was only the beginning. Building a room required more money than we could imagine. Still, my father did not give up. He worked even harder than before. Sometimes he worked 2 jobs in one day. During the scorching summer heat, while others rested in the shade, he continued carrying bricks and cement bags. His clothes became soaked with sweat, and his feet often swelled from exhaustion. I remember one painful evening when my father returned home limping. His hands were injured from lifting heavy materials all day. My mother begged him to rest for a few days, but he refused. He said, "If I stop now, my children will continue suffering." That night I secretly cried while looking at his wounded hands. For the first time I realized that fathers hide their pain so their families can live with peace. Months later, construction finally began. We could not afford workers, so my father did most of the labor himself. After finishing his daily job, he spent evenings building the room brick by brick. Sometimes neighbors helped him for a short time. But most of the work was done by his own hands. Every brick carried a story of sacrifice. I remember standing beside him and handing him bricks while he worked under the hot sun. Even though he was tired, he smiled whenever he looked at the slowly rising walls. To others it was only a small room, but for us it was a symbol of survival, dignity, and love. There were many obstacles during construction. At one point money completely ran out. Work stopped for several weeks. I saw my father sitting quietly one night, worried and heartbroken, but instead of giving up, he prayed silently and started working harder again. He believed that Allah rewards those who struggle honestly. Finally, after years of sacrifice, the room was completed. It was small, simple, and made with basic materials. The paint was uneven and the floor was rough. But to us it looked more beautiful than any palace in the world. For the first time in our lives we had our own roof. The day we moved inside, my mother cried tears of happiness. My younger siblings laughed excitedly while touching the walls. My father stood silently near the door, looking at the room with tired but proud eyes. He did not celebrate loudly, he simply smiled with peace in his heart. That night was unforgettable. Rain started falling heavily outside. Normally we would panic because water leaked into our old rented place. But this time we sat safely inside our own room, listening to the sound of rain hitting the roof. My father had built with his own hands. For the first time we slept peacefully. I looked at my father before sleeping. His face showed deep exhaustion, but it also carried satisfaction. At that moment, I understood the true meaning of a father's love. Father does not always express love with words. Sometimes his love appears in the form of tired hands, sleepless nights, silent sacrifices, and endless struggles. As time passed, our situation slowly improved. We continued studying, and my father kept working to give us a better future. Even though life remained difficult, we no longer felt helpless because we had learned the greatest lesson from him. Never give up. Today, whenever I see that small room, I do not see cement or bricks. I see my father's sacrifices hidden in every corner. I see the dreams he carried while working under the burning sun. I see the hunger he tolerated so we could survive. I see the pain he hid behind his smile. Many people inherit wealth from their fathers. We inherited something far more valuable: strength, patience, dignity, and courage. My father taught me that real success is not measured by expensive houses or luxury cars. Real success is when a man sacrifices his comfort to protect his family. Real success is when parents sleep hungry so their children can eat. Real success is when a father spends his entire life building even a small roof to save his children from suffering. Even today, whenever I feel tired or hopeless in life, I remember my father carrying bricks under the hot sun with injured hands. That memory gives me strength to continue fighting my own battles. People may forget rich men, powerful people, or famous celebrities, but children never forget the sacrifices of a father who gave everything just to provide shelter and hope. To the world, my father may be an ordinary laborer, but to me he is the strongest man alive, because he built not only a room for us, he built our future with his own hands.